For the first IKEA hack, I really wanted to make an industrial wall sconce for my office, and I found this IKEA tray many years ago at a thrift store in Scottsdale, and it's just been sitting in my basement, so I decided that this was going to make the perfect backing to my candle wall sconce. And while going through the garage, I found this piece here that is what the candle is going to sit inside of. Now, to hang it off of the wall, I decided it'd probably be better to use a hook of some kind, so I'm going to do my little shower curtain leather strap trick that I will show you guys later on, and essentially that is what's going to be attached to the wall. And to attach all of these pieces together, I'm actually just going to use some super glue gel that you can pick up from the Dollar Tree, because hot glue and E6000 are not the best adhesive when you're dealing with metal, so I definitely recommend using some super glue instead. The most important thing is to add a generous amount, kind of avoiding those holes so you don't have a lot of fallout. And if you do, it's not a huge deal because you could just take like a watered down Q-tip and just kind of clean up those edges. And you just want to make sure that that tip is pointing up, so then that way your candle will sit completely straight. And as that bottom piece is curing, I'm just gonna work on the top now. And I'm just taking some old leather fabric from an old purse that I don't wear anymore. And that shower curtain ring is something that I just have had on hand. So I'm just applying a small amount of super glue in between those two pieces of leather fabric. And then I'll attach that completed piece to the back of this tray. And after all of that had hardened, something was just missing for me a little bit. I think it was just bothering me that those holes, there was just like nothing in them. So I have had these push pins, and I decided I was going to use those to not only fill those holes, but to add to the top piece as well. So taking some wire cutters, I'm just snipping off where you would actually need to pin something into. So then that way I could just super glue those pieces into those holes. So it just felt a little bit more complete in the end. And again, just taking some super glue gel and applying a little bit inside of each of these holes, and then just pressing those studs into those holes. Overall, I would definitely recommend doing a project like this one because it literally probably took 10 minutes and I didn't have to spend any money, and I think it looks really high end. So for the next project, this is definitely the most random project, I would say, of the bunch, but I have had these two fiddle leaf fig trees from IKEA for several years now, and they claim to be 5 feet tall, but it's actually more like 4 1/4. The problem is our ceilings are extremely high now, and these little plants just dwarf the space. So instead of having two small ones that I'm really not doing anything with, I wanted to make one giant fiddle leaf fig tree. So what's really nice about IKEA is everything kind of can come apart fairly easily. So these are all kind of just like broken down in sections, and they are attached to a metal pole. There was adhesive on here at some point, but just using like a wrench, I was able to get all of those pieces off probably in 10 minutes or less. So my initial thought was I was going to be able to just use both poles and attach them somehow together, but there's not really a good way to do that because obviously this fiddle leaf fig tree is going to be really top heavy, and you need a good support that's just kind of one solid piece. So after I removed all of the pieces and I determined that I was not going to be able to use the poles that came with the trees together, I decided to just make a quick trip to Lowe's, and I grabbed a 3/8 inch metal pole, and that was going to be the new base for my tree. Another thing I had to do was I ended up with two top pieces from each fiddle leaf fig tree, and I needed one of those top pieces to have a hole through it, so then the other top piece could sit on top of that one, if that makes sense. So I just drilled a hole so then that way that one could just slide right down. And as for the metal pole that we picked up from Lowe's, I just used my hacksaw and I just measured about what 7 feet would look like. And I decided that that was gonna be the perfect height for my new fiddle leaf fig tree. And I still kept the bases of both of them. Now the bottom, I just slid through the hole. I didn't remove that top faux dirt piece. And so that is like the base of the fiddle leaf fig tree. And then right over top of that, I did have to remove that faux dirt piece so then that way my pole could slide through that. You can't use that middle hole because that's already occupied with the previous pole. So now I just kind of like laid out my fiddle leaf fig pieces in the order that I'm thinking is gonna look right. And just, it's really nice because it's really like a puzzle. Everything just kind of fits together as it did previously. And I didn't really run into any major issues with this project, which was amazing because I loved the end result. For the next project, I wanted to make an oversized woven lumbar throw pillow for my office, and I have had this extra Sortso rug lying around, and these are really affordable at IKEA. I think they're about $3.99, and as a rug, they're not super great, but there's so many different things you can do with them. For me specifically, I wanted this band that I'm showing you here to be in the middle of the pillow. So I'm going to fold the rug into that center band so that way I know that it's going to be in the middle. And my sewing machine isn't the best quality. It doesn't take super thick fabric. It seems to jam when I do. So for me, knowing that this is decorative, I am totally okay with using hot glue in circumstances like this one. So I think it's just personal preference. If you have like a super awesome sewing machine that can take semi-thick fabric, I would say do that, and especially if it's something people are going to be using all the time. But again, this is purely decorative, so I decided that hot glue was going to be just fine. Lumbar pillows, especially woven lumbar pillows, leather lumbar pillows, are a pricey item. Even at affordable places such as Target, you're at least going to be spending $30, $35 on a pillow this size. So it was really nice that this was just something I had on hand, and then you can also use the fill from a different pillow, which I will show you in a little bit. To glue the pillow, after I made sure that that center band was going to be there, I just took small sections and I just hot glued them, making sure they were dry before moving on to the next one. And now it's just time to turn it inside out. And after I turn it inside out, I'm going to hot glue one of the sides together so that way I can add my fill and it's not just gonna slip through the other side. So to add my fill, I have had this 16 by 16 pillow. I don't use this size very often, so I was definitely comfortable taking this fill from this pillow to put it into my new lumbar pillow. I would definitely only do this in a pillow that's not down-filled. A down-filled pillow is going to make a mess, and to be honest, down-filled pillows are expensive, so you're better off just keeping that original shape and finding a cover that you like for that pillow and taking maybe a cheaper pillow like this one. I think I paid about $6 for this pillow at some point in my life. And a tip that I have when you're using fill like this is just to kind of break it apart from its original shape, so that way it's nice and fluffy and you don't have a bunch of lumps in your pillow. And with the fill separated, it's just time to fill the pillow and now hot glue the other side down. And lastly, I wanted to save the easiest for last. I wanted to make a woven burlap basket. And one thing I've noticed about our house specifically is the closets, the entry to the closet is pretty average, but they're actually quite deep. So rectangular baskets actually work a little bit better than square baskets do. So I had this rug for a while now. I believe I got it on a back to school special at IKEA, and I believe it was only 99 cents. I'm not sure what the price is now, but it is a very affordable piece of fabric in my opinion that already has like a nice texture and pattern going on. To start, I'm just going to fold this rug onto itself so that way these seams line up perfectly. And this step is really important just so your basket's not all wonky. And once I did that, I just took some hot glue and I'm just kind of starting to glue down where that band begins. And I'm gonna glue about 2/3 of the way down on each side. And I've done something really similar to this in the past with the Sforzo rug, and you guys loved that project, but you also had some questions about how it would stand upright. And this little hack is something that I learned from TikTok, and it actually does make it stand upright a bit better. So if you have the Sforzo rug, you can do this exact same thing with this project instead. And all I'm doing is I'm kind of going to make a perpendicular line to the piece that we just glued, gluing a little dot in the middle, connecting that, and then gluing these sides together as well. And essentially what that does is it just creates a more solid foundation for your basket, so it just stands upright a little bit better even when it's not being filled with something. And for some reason after the new year, I know a lot of us get really into organizing, and it's nice that I was able to use something that I already had to do so. And that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you leave me a comment and tell me what your favorite was, and I will see you next week. Bye.